Hey, what's up? It's Jack.Lion here again with another Max for Live tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to figure out how to take our basic mapping button and turn it into something useful. And I'm going to do this video based around this idea of creating a curve editor for your macro. So normally macros look like this, right? And we just get this, which works, like that's cool, right? But what if we wanted something like this? Or like this. Pretty cool. So without further ado, let's get into it. So just to cover all ground, I just wanted to say this video is based off of my last video. So if you haven't watched that yet, it's actually going to be necessary to follow along with this unless you have your own sort of mapping setup. What you need is this. So you can grab that off of my Gumroad or my Patreon. So if you have that and you don't care about how it's made, then feel free to just plug it in here and follow along with the rest of the video. You can skip this explanation here, but if you're coming from the last video, chances are you might want to see this. So there's something I missed in the last video, and I didn't consider that when you're using messages as signals for controlling, then basically you can get aliasing. So without explaining it in depth, because I have a video for that I'll be posting soon as well. I'm just going to show you how to fix that. So we open that up, and what I'm going to do is go inside pmap and create. So okay, if you have the patch, one more thing I wanted to say. So if you followed the last video, chances are you had live.this device plugged into the map here. You can go ahead and cut that cord. The only one that needs to be here is the one coming out of pmap. Otherwise, you don't need to initialize it. All right, so if you're coming here from the last tutorial and you don't have my patch from Gumroad, then, or if you haven't grabbed the update, then your patch probably looks similar to this. Only difference being, instead of p all this underscore edit, you probably just have the standard one plugged in. So I made a little edit to that, and I'll show you how I did that so that you can basically have yours work just as well. So you make a sub patcher, call it anything, open up this with command click, and you want to modify, unlock, and I just copied everything. Went inside p anything, or as I called it, this, basically your sub patcher, and you want to paste that in here. Now, this is a lot of craziness that's beyond the scope of this video, so I'm just going to show you how to patch this up so we can move on. You're going to want to attach a pen 50 point or 30. Basically, pick something between like 10 to 50. I wouldn't say like go past 100, but feel free to play around with it. Basically, this is going to interpolate between the aliased messages so that you get a smoother output. And this helps things a lot to sound better. So if you go ahead and did this, you should have a working mapping button all around that you can use in your other patches. So good for you. In the meantime, we're gonna save this. I don't need to save this one for myself because I already did this here. So I'm just gonna delete that, close this, and actually we're gonna need to grab this. So go ahead and take this and then close it here. All right, so with that copied to our clipboard, we're going to open up a new Max audio effect and go ahead and start building our device. All right, so we're going to be moving a little bit fast, so feel free to pause the video to take it in if you need to. So what we're going to do is use this bpatcher, which allows us to, it's basically a sub patcher that we can see inside of. So in the inspector, we're going to embed patcher in parent and then copy that, go inside, unlock, paste that and just to make sure, yeah, we're gonna want that to be embed patcher and parent as well. So put that one up at the top corner here, and go inside. And I just realized, shoot, I just got rid of this from the clipboard. So I gotta go back in here real quick, copy all of that. All right, cool. So we're inside of our bpatcher, our third layer in, and we're gonna paste this. All right, we don't need that. We don't need that. So I'm just gonna tidy up a little bit. All right, so what I'm gonna do is move all this up here to the top left corner and take this down a little bit. Move this. All right, so these cables are a mess now. So what I'm gonna do is highlight them all, Shift Command Y. All right, so we're gonna break this down a little further soon. But first, notice what happens when we do that. Aha. So now we have a way to basically show a subpatcher a layer up. All right, so I'm just gonna tidy these up again. It's still kind of a mess, but if you're copying the patch from the last video, then it shouldn't really be too difficult. I'm gonna parse this all out a little bit more later. So for now, we have this, and you might notice all these cables. We don't want that, so we're gonna highlight all of those and hit Command K, and that's gonna be useful for us later as well. So remember that. All right, moving forward. If you notice our third layer up, we're seeing this now. So watch what happens if I move this. Then this moves. So basically, the bpatcher by default is gonna look in the corner here. And we can always change that by going to the offset. Now we're gonna learn how to use that in my next video, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we'll continue building this patch. All right, so what we're gonna need on this layer is a live.text, and we're gonna change the display to label, and then mode to button, and call it quote quote mapping graph, right? And then one more thing here, change the text color to black. Cool. All right, so let's see what this looks like if I move this down a little bit and put this like up here. All right, so we're kind of building our UI while also building our patch here. All right, so on this layer, we're going to want 2 inlets. So just leave that there for now. And on this layer, I think we're also going to want a couple inlets. So let's go ahead and throw them in there. 1, 2, 3. All right, so next, what we're going to do is add a subpatcher called pmapping. All right, so this is going to be where this is going to be the window actually that pops up whenever we do our mapping and change the curve. So we're going to need a function object for that, and make it roughly a square size. Cool. All right, so then we're going to want inlets 3, and we're going to want 1 outlet, 2 outlet. Okay, cool. All right, so if you command click, you can create a point. I'm going to lock real quick so I can drag this to the corner, and then command click to create another point, drag that to the other corner. And I don't like how it shows the coordinates, so I'm going to turn that off. Aha, so we want to change the mode from linear to curve. That way we can create nice curves. All right, so one thing we want is another live.text, and we're going to change, no, we're not going to change that. We're going to just change this to a button and call it clear. Awesome. All right, now we need a message, and that's going to say clear, and we're going to give it the coordinates 0, 0, and 1, 1, and that's going to create this linear sort of shape for us later when we want to clear our curves. That's going to go into here. I'm going to move this here and then connect. Actually, we don't need to connect anything for that. Leave that for now. Now this one's going to go into here. So we have inlet 1 going into the function object. We can go ahead and connect our outlets. Why not? And basically this is going to send a bang out, which is going to help us initialize our patch. So whenever we change the curve, our parameter in live always updates immediately. So you'll see what I mean later. And then this is just going to be the output of our function. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and connect this here. That's going to be important for initialization later. And one more thing. We're going to want a message that says front and send that to a bpatcher. Cool. I'm just going to organize this a little bit. Okay, cool. That's good for now. So the next thing we're going to do is close this. And now we're looking back here. All right, so I just want this to be a little tighter. And select all again, Shift Command Y. Cool. All right, so on this P mapping, there's a few things we're going to connect right off the rip. We're going to connect this inlet to there. We're going to connect number 2 to number 2 and number 3 to number 3. Cool. And I think that we're going to put this stuff up a few layers so we can delete that. And go ahead and connect this to the defer low. Bring it up here. All right, so that defer low, I think that can stay, yeah. And then this, put that back up there. These patch cables. All right, that's a little better. All right, so this is something we can work with. Okay, so what we're gonna wanna do is initialize these. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect these here, 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 and here. Awesome. All right, so those are going to bang every time we load up our patch, and they're going to remember their values from the save project. Also, P mapping is going to go into here, because that's going to be the output of our function, and that's what we want to send to our device parameter. So go ahead and map that. Okay, what next? Now we're going to create an outlet and just connect that here. All right, so let's leave this one alone for now and go back into this layer here. All right, one other thing I forgot, we're going to have to keep cleaning up our patch with Command K just to get rid of those cables a layer up. And then also we have some inlets here now that we can work with. So let's take the output of our mapping graph here and put that into inlet 2. Hit Command K. And stick that right back up there. Awesome. And I can see a little bit poking out. We could Command K it, but I'm being lazy. Just going to cut it off. Now that we have stuff in the UI, it's important to note that you're going to have to double click in the white space to open it up. Otherwise, sometimes it works, but it tends to give me problems. So just be aware that if you're ever clicking around and it won't work, just open it up a little bit and try and click somewhere else in the patch. It'll work. Okay, so then the next thing is we're going to connect inlet 1 here to the input here, because that's going to go to P mapping, and P mapping is what's going to remap our macro. Okay, and then 2 here, I think that's going to be our initialization. That goes into here because inlet 3 took in the initialization values for all the parameters. All right, so far so good. Another thing we want is an outlet That's going to go out here. Cool. So I think we can move forward a little bit. So let's close this. And now we can start to work on our UI a little bit. Go ahead and Command K that. Cool. So I'm going to create a panel object and send it to back. That way we can go hide it again. All right, so I'm actually going to color this one. Yeah, that's nice. Where do you want? Okay, another one. Make this one a bit smaller. Okay, so now I'm going to create a live.dial. And this one's going to be called macro. And that's going to be a float style. And just for fun, it's the only real like knob we're going to use. So let's make it large. And give it an initial value. All right, so this is a pretty good macro now. Oh, one more thing. We don't want 127. We want 0 to 1. Sweet. So that can go into our inlet here. And then what we can do now is just fish out our load bang and our live dot this device. Into here. And also into here now. And then one more thing is we're going to take this and plug that into there. So tidy up a little bit. Okay, cool. So now when we click this, this will come up. So one thing we want to do here is we don't want to see any of this when our window pops up. So I'm going to Command K a few things. So we want to highlight this, Command K that. We want to highlight this, Command K that, and then just Command K this. Don't do it to this because that's something we're going to want to use. So let's see what happens when we lock this. Yeah, so this is the only thing that's still visible. So now when we lock it, this should be what we see. Oh no, that is not what we wanted. What did I do? One more thing I forgot. We want our high domain display to be just 1 point. That way when we clear, yeah, that's right. Cool. All right, so when we lock it, looks like that. So that's cool for now. We do want to add this to presentation. So select these two and add those to presentation. Yeah, and then I'm just going to move these into the corner here just to make it a little neat. All right, so I'm also going to add this to the presentation and this. Now let's see what happens. Okay, cool. So far, so good. And oh yeah, as always, select the blank space, pull out the inspector, and choose the patcher inspector, and look for open in presentation. Yeah. And then should be able to see our device width. What is that? Yeah, there we go. There's the ticket. All right, so now what we want to do is set the device width. So let's go to View, Set Device Width, and you might want to drag this out a little bit and it'll reveal it. So let's go ahead and save this now. Curve editor, or curve macro. Save that to the desktop. All right, let's see what happens now. So far, so good. Okay, cool. Cool, looks like it works. Nice. All right, that was it for today's video. If you liked the video, please like, comment, subscribe. And if you want the patch, go ahead and buy it off of the Gumroad or download it off Patreon. Otherwise, you should be able to follow along and make this from the start of the last video up to now. So yeah, I hope that this is fun and useful for you guys. All right, see you in the next video. In the next one, we're going to expand on this, make it so that we have 4 different macros that we can select with a live.tab UI object. And what that's going to do is dynamically shift the bpatcher so that we look at the next one down and the next one down. So we're going to be doing a lot of the same stuff. And then at the end, we're going to add a knob that controls all 4 in an interesting way. So stay tuned.